The San Francisco 49ers made some roster moves yesterday, and I wanted to bring them to you because there is some good news on the horizon based on this move or multiple moves. So the San Francisco 49ers released two players from the practice squad. They released kicker Matt Gay and quarterback Adrian Martinez. And so, shout out to Matt Gay. He came in, did a great job. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I don't believe he missed a kick. And he really filled in well for Eddie Piñeiro, who has obviously come in and become a fan favorite ever since the Jake Moody debacle. And, Matt Gay was very serviceable. And, if the 49ers need another kicker again, Matt Gay could definitely fill that role. And again, it just kind of hits home even harder that you don't need to draft a kicker. You can find them on the streets for free. But anyways, that is good news because it does mean that Eddie Piñeiro is set to return this week. So love to see that. Obviously, Eddie Piñeiro dealing with a hamstring injury that he suffered against Arizona a couple weeks ago. And so he should be back. Obviously, the 49ers have also signed Javon Baker. We talked about that yesterday in more detail in the previous video. But the 49ers making some moves. They also added linebacker Garrett Wallow. They claimed him off waivers. So, the 49ers continue to stack pieces. They continue to add these fringe roster guys, and it'll be interesting. Does the addition of the wide receivers speak to the future, without Brandon Ayuk? Probably. Maybe not directly, maybe more indirectly than anything else, but it does seem like the 49ers, while hopeful for a return of Brandon Ayuk, probably aren't going to be expecting to see that anytime soon. I think anyone would be shocked to see Brandon Ayuk walk through those doors for the San Francisco 49ers and play. Obviously, it would be a great boost to get him for the 49ers offense, especially if he's healthy. But it doesn't sound like that is going to be occurring anytime soon. So, we'll see. But the 49ers continue to make some moves. They're back at practice today after the bye week. So we'll get updates to see if, who's back. I'm looking at guys like Tatum Bethune, Sam Okwuonu, guys like that who missed some time. And I think the biggest one might be Yetur Gross-Matos. Can Yetur Gross-Matos return? He's just had such a strange 2 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers because he has barely been available, but when he's been available, he's been pretty darn good. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Because he's barely played. Just nagging injury after nagging injury for him. We'll see if he can return this week, and, he would be a welcomed addition to that 49ers defensive line. So we'll see how that ultimately plays out, but hopefully the bye week was good for this team to allow them to get healthy, kind of reset. It's a rare late bye week. I know that, George Kittle is pretty vocal about these types of things. And he was beside himself that it was such a late bye, week 14 bye. To him was crazy, but hey, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, allows the 49ers to, go through that marathon a little bit earlier. And now you got 4 games to close out the season before the playoffs start. And you got Titans, you got Colts with a Phillip Rivers at quarterback. You got a pretty hot Bears team. And then the last game of the year against Seattle. Get your popcorn ready. The 49ers have the opportunity to bring a lot of chaos to the NFC seeding. They're currently 6th in the seeding. If the playoffs were to start today, they would play the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's a pretty positive time, and there's all these murmurs of potentially Fred Warner could return maybe in the playoffs. So I don't know. I look at the whole team in general. They missed Brock Purdy for a huge portion of the year, missed Ricky Pearsall for a huge portion of the year, revolving door at left guard for a big portion of the year. And, you got to shout out Spencer Burford a little bit. It seems like the 49ers offensive line has kind of settled since Spencer Burford has been in at left guard, so credit to him. I know they were still platooning and kind of rotating, Barch and Burford, but Burford seems to be doing a pretty decent job. And, after watching some of the tape last week, Brendel actually played well. Yes, you heard me say that. Brendel played well. But Colton McKivitz absolutely struggled in that game against the Browns. One of the worst games I might have ever seen him play. So we'll see. The O-line, for the most part, is playing well. Colton needs to step up to round out the end of the year. But, there's a lot of optimism here. One of the things that you want to see from these NFL teams is you want to see them get hot at the end. So there's an opportunity for this team to get hot and get rolling at the end of the season. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But I'm feeling pretty good about it. We'll see. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.